All right. Welcome. So this is going to be session 0 of. Oh, wait, we just lost Brandon. All right. Well, I'll continue my spiel. Hopefully he'll be back. Session 0 of Urban Shadows. We are going to be using the Urban Shadows 2nd edition. I am Kale. My pronouns are he, him. We will be. This game is running on the Open Hearth. You can find out more at openhearthgaming.com. Yeah, and then I'd love to just go around and start by having everyone introduce themselves. Kai, am I saying that right? First of all,
Kay.
Kay. Okay, Kay, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm Kay of the she and they variety in terms of pronouns. I go by Critical K on the interwebs with 2 Ks. As I mentioned before, I have a bit of a fitful relationship with Urban Shadows through things. And so I'm very curious to explore a sort of full length and theoretically finished version of the 2E game. And yeah, super excited to play with everyone. I think I've played with everyone before, except for I think you, Cal. So that will be delightful.
All right, and Elle?
Sure, yeah. I'm Elle. My pronouns are she, her. I've played with everyone who's currently on the call. Brandon's the only one I don't know at all. So yeah, I played Urban Shadows before. I run it a little bit as well. Obviously, very limited experience with 2E so far, given that the finished book just came out. But yeah, I'm excited to see how things have polished up since the last time I played.
And Jesse?
I'm Jesse, pronouns he, him. Yeah, I love Urban Shadows. I was saying before you hopped on the call, Elle, I think it was the first PBTA game I played. One of the first games I ran for what was then the Gauntlet. It is now Open Hearth. Those are both 1E, and I've run a little bit of 2E. Obviously, it's in different shape now than it was then, but excited to see to get a feel and to be on this side of the screen, so to speak. So yeah, it's me.
Awesome. And Brandon?
Yeah, hi, I'm Brandon He. I've played Urban Shadows a half dozen times, and I think some previous version of 2E, obviously not the most recent one, but some older preprint, and I'm really fond of it. I've had a lot of good adventures with it.
Awesome. All right. So we will be using various safety tools for this this session and the rest of the sessions in the series. So first of all, I'll be doing breaks probably at around half past, probably like 10-minute breaks, just to let people get up and move around and do whatever else they need to. We'll also do we'll be using lines and veils. So we have a lines and veils sheet on the in the character keeper, and we'll be taking time to fill those out and also to review them, and sort of keeping an eye on those as the sessions go forward. The X card, so if anyone needs to take to stop and redact any content from the stuff we've been playing, or sort of stops. Sorry, I should say, for anyone that I'm guessing you're all aware, but lines are going to be things that we are not going to include in the game at all. Veils, we can include the content in the game, but it will be sort of a fade to black. We won't actually sort of see it directly. And then anything that needs to just be approached cautiously, you can mark as ask first. X card, we can use live and play just with the type something in the chat, or use sort of a hand gesture or something like that, and we'll just stop and rewind as far as we need to. No explanation needed as for why. And then we'll use script change as well, if anything, if we're approaching content that you want to make sure that we sort of are careful around. You can slow down, ask to just to slow down the game, or we can sort of rewind as needed. And then lastly, we have an open door policy. So if you need to leave for whatever reason, no worries. Do what you need to do for you. I will say, much like Jesse had mentioned, I have some kids upstairs. I may have to get pulled away. Hopefully it won't be long interruptions if that were to happen. But if I disappear for some extended period of time, don't feel like you have to stick around. We'll come back next week. Yeah, I think that's all of that. Does everyone have the link to the character sheet? It looks like we've got at least a handful of folks in there and me. Yeah, so I think we're good there. So if you could, let's just go through, and if you can go through and mark any lines and veils that you have, and then also you can fill in the sort of romance options sheet, sort of section there. And then just put something in the chat, or wave at me or something when you've had a chance to make sure everything is filled out as much as you need it to be. Okay.
I'm okay.
Great. And then just another, just if you could, if you haven't already, but just take a minute to review what everyone else has added, and just give me another like a verbal or in the chat, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay. So, I think everyone's has some familiar with Urban Shadows. So I think the thing that I would like to do next is to actually do a bit of a sort of palette setting exercise. So just kind of going around, since everyone might have a slightly different conception of what they want to see out of urban fantasy, or what they don't want to see. I want to just kind of go around and have sort of one at a time add either a thing that you'd like to see or a thing that you don't really want to see in this game, kind of in addition to kind of this explicit lines and veils. Or and of course you can pass if you don't have anything specific to add at that point, and we'll come around and just to kind of make sure everyone's in the same has a sense of where we want this game to be. Yes. Okay. You are on mute.
A thing I will constantly do through our next several games. Talking while on mute. I'd love to just settle really quickly who's playing what playbook before we do the palette, because I know there was a couple. I think there was some back and forth about a couple of them, which I'm totally fine however it works out. But what I want in the game might differ depending on which playbook I'm playing.
Perfect. I'm down with that. That sounds good to me. So yeah, I know we had some discussion in Slack. I guess going around, let's start with if you have a playbook that you really want, or like a top 3, and we can kind of go through and see where everyone's at. So Kay, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I just had 2, the Oracle or the Sworn.
Okay. Jesse?
Yeah, I'm trying to go in a different direction from how I've played Urban Shadows in the past. So, like, a strong interest in the Vamp, but if someone else is like, I'm madly in love with that playbook and must have it, I'm happy to try out the Imp or the Wizard too.
Okay. Brandon?
I'm inclined to either play the Sworn or the Spectre. I tend to lean towards the Sworn a little bit.
Okay.
Thinking about it, but if that doesn't work out, I have a backup.
And Elle?
I think for this game, I'm most interested in the Aware, and I don't think there was any overlap.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's really just between Kay and Brandon.
I'm happy to play the Oracle. It sounds like Brandon has like more of a tie to the Sworn. I'm happy to go with either, so Oracle's fine with me.
Okay.
Cool.
So I think that And if you feel so inclined, you can grab a column in the character keeper and throw your playbook on there and your names. But with that, maybe we can go back to the palette, and just to mix it up things, I'll mix it up a little bit. Elle, why don't we start with you first?
Oh gosh. I would like to see sexy vampires.
All right.
Which does not mean that I don't want to see like vampirism as like brutal and savage and all of that, if that's the direction that we want to go, especially Jesse, since he's going to be playing the vamp. I also just think sexy vampires are fun. So
there's room for all kinds of vampires in this story. I'm down with vampire diversity.
Yes, I also support vampire diversity.
Brandon.
I'd like to see. What's a good way to put it? Big spiritual questions. Things, we have a lot of characters that deal with life and death and things like that. But we haven't often talked about it, and I think that's really interesting.
I like it. Jesse. And you are on mute.
Like Kay, I will be doing this a lot. Also, post break, mic up. Maybe this is baked into the game, but I think it's helpful to like say it out loud. And that is difficult choices. I don't want you to let my character off from making hard choices.
Excellent.
And I will do my best not to let anyone get off without making hard choices either, if people are down with that.
Okay.
I apologize because I'm struggling to figure out a concise way to say this, so I'll do my best. One of the things I really want to explore is like the starting framing and grouping around status growth. And so like us interacting as like starter characters as like status, 1 or so low characters with people who are higher status. Additionally to like any trajectory we may go either up or down in, sort of statuses and things like that.
Got it. So sort of, so both seeing how the characters grow status wise, but also interactions between the kind of lower status and higher status characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think this isn't disagreeing with you. This is just giving you like clear language here, right? It's the MC principle, right? Keep everyone in their place, whatever, right? Something like that. Is that sort of the thing you're thinking about?
To an extent, yeah, but I think it's 2 of us at least have like connections essentially as sort of underlings to much higher status individuals, just due to our playbooks. And so I think that could be like a really interesting dynamic to kind of play through.
Elle, background to you.
This is more of a, I guess, mechanical thing, and less something like I want to bring to the narrative necessarily. And I know that we will touch on this because we have a nice long period of time. But I'm really interested in the changes to the sort of factional play of the game. And I'm really excited to see like what the faction turn is like. So yeah, just throwing that out there. That's one of the things I'm excited about exploring about the new edition.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the reasons that when this whole thread came up, that I decided to jump in like and do the full quarterlies, because I also want to see how that plays out. Make sure we have enough time for that. Brandon.
let's see. Skip me and come back for a moment. I'm
Sure.
trying to put words to this.
What about you, Jesse?
So I maybe tying back into what Elle just said, right? The fact, but like factions group like factions is what the game calls them. That's what they are, right? Like factions grounded in like communities and places and people. That's I think sort of like the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have mine now.
Okay, go for it.
Factions at each other's throats with us caught in the middle.
Excellent. Lots of interest in factions, which I think is very appropriate for the game. So cool. Okay.
So I think one of the things that I'm not necessarily interested in is PvP to the level of killing each other. I think it's fine if we get into arguments or if our characters fight, like even maybe a fist fight or like, maybe the sworn breaks someone's arm. But I'd rather us as player characters not be trying to murder each other.
Elle?
Let's see. Oh, I guess one thing I did want to check in on, the very loose character concept that I have is like, again, very loosely based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. I have no allegiance to H.P. Lovecraft, and I don't want like her trajectory or like the details of the character to like adhere slavishly to that. But I just like want to check in that it's okay to bring in like Cthulhu mythos stuff, even in a very like abstract way.
As long as the world doesn't have to conform to the Cthulhu mythos hugely, I think that's great.
Okay, great. No, I don't want the world to conform to it at all. So yeah, I think we're on the same page then. Good.
Cool. I don't know if we want to. I don't know if there's if we want to put that in the things we'd like to see. I'm not quite sure how we'd want to phrase it.
I don't even know that belongs on the palette. It's just like something that popped into my head.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Brandon, anything else on your mind?
I guess this is really part and parcel of the thing before, so I'm not sure this is a new thing, which is just conflicts between the personal and the avocational or political. And maybe that's just part of what I already said, so it doesn't have to be listed separately.
I mean, I think that's I think that a lot of these play nicely together, and I think having it called out is great. So,
yeah, I mean, just Clash is a worldview. I'll put as a separate one. In other words, what are not everybody's playing for the same currency, kind of idea. If that makes sense.
Jesse?
Power means different things to different people, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think the thing that one last thing I have for the palette is just like that is magic and horror, like just under like the thinnest skin of the world, right? Like we haven't talked about stuff like, to what I think the game sort of assumes the general public doesn't know about magic and horrors, but like, it doesn't mean there's like something formal like the Masquerade or whatever from the White Wolf games, and we can work that out. So the thing I'm sort of like looking for here is that like that thing, and is that thing where like anyone who's really looking for it can find it, but people don't, almost in a very, very different genre and vibe, almost like like the Men in Black thing, right? If you remember, like how like aliens are just everywhere in that movie, but no one notices because no one's looking. Yeah.
I wrote that down as magic and horror barely concealed. Does that,
I mean, I don't know that one, like
or is it?
like I think most people don't know that there's magic, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just like it takes no effort to conceal them. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, and that's like a pretty heavy lift. So if folks have other thoughts, like I just think that's cool.
Yeah, I think I like that. I certainly prefer that to the game becoming in part about how to keep up the so-called Masquerade. Like, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, that's a great thing to put in the
side of the poll at all.
Kay, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think we've hit most of what I was thinking of. If I come up with anything more, I'm sure as we talk and get characters ready, we can go from there.
So I'll just open it up then. Anyone else have anything they want to put on there before we?
My one last thing, and again, this is more of a question than it is something for the palette. I apologize. So urban fantasy as a genre can like cross over with horror, the genre, quite a lot. I'm not super opinionated about this, but I'm curious how much this group is interested in that overlap.
I'm pretty interested in that. Like, I chose to play the Vamp partly because I'm interested in fiddling around with debt mechanics and being, a horrific manipulative jerk. But also because I'm kind of into some of the horror stuff. So I don't know that we could talk about what that horror looks like. But like some element of horror, I would like to see, I think.
I'm a huge fan of horror gamings. Outside of D&D, I cut my teeth in horror gaming into TTRPGs, so I'm always happy to get into horror. I'm happy either way.
Well, I won't claim I'm deeply steeped in horror, but I certainly have read my share of mythos stuff and various things. So I will attempt to keep up. Let's put it that way.
Cool. Brandon, do you have any thoughts?
For the horror aspect, I like it.
Okay, cool. I think we're all pretty much
Cool.
on the same page. I love horror, so.
All right. I think unless anyone has, I mean, certainly we can always add things to the palette in either column as they come up. But I guess at this point we can jump over to character creation. Let's see. Now if I have to remember what the order was. I swear I put it in something. Oh yeah, here we go. Right. So if you go over to the playbooks tab, I tried to kind of pull in, and I can actually hide. I think we can hide a bunch of these. I put a bunch of the sort of notes that are on the playbook, the playbooks in the sort of printed version in there, and tried to order things roughly in the order that it maybe makes sense to sort of work through them. So just to okay, we've got those hidden. You know, so we've got sort of the names and description stuff, but when we actually get to the mechanics, so you'll start with your character stats will start at the line listed in 6, and then you get to add 1 to any single value there. Those stats, well, and now I'm realizing I don't have a good description in my head of what they are, but blood is roughly sort of fighting and body related stuff, I believe. I should just get the sheet. Hold
Yes.
on. And if you don't need me to go
Well,
through this because you all played Urban Shadows a bunch, and I'm preaching the choir, that's also fine. Anyway, so yeah, so we'll so you'll set your stats, add 1 to them. You'll again set your starting circles, and you'll add 1 to those starting circles. The circle rating is the amount that you know about and sort of are familiar with. I think the sort of the politics of the other circles, and it's what you use when you roll sort of circle related moves. And then your status is going to be where you are with your faction. I note as I'm looking through here that we nicely, I guess we don't have anyone on wild. We have 2 power, no wild, but that's fine. We have a pretty good broad breadth of coverage across the status, the circles as far as who our characters are with.
Okay.
The intro questions, starting gear, and starting debts. Well, we'll go through the starting debts later after we've done some character introductions, since those are more about like relationships between the characters. But the intro questions you can just kind of keep in mind as you're filling the rest of the sheet out. And the starting gear do give you some choices you have to make. Oh, editing stats in the sheet. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I selected something from the drop down and it was like, no, you can't put that
Yeah.
here.
No.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
also having that issue.
Oh,
I thought it was
yeah.
just me.
Okay, hold on. Let me just real quick. Clearly I did not test. Wait, someone got something to work. That's weird.
I got a -1 to work.
Yeah.
Not a lot else though.
Oh no. Okay. Let me just take the formatting rules off this. I will fix this up in post. Tried to make my character sheet too smart, clearly. Data validation. That's playbooks. That's it. Yeah, it looks like the circles are having the same problem, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
That works fine, but not rating.
Yeah, it's something about the. Okay, 13 to 16. All right, we'll just delete. There we go. Okay, you should be able to freely set whatever values you want in there, and I will figure out how to make them actually the right, some reasonable set of things later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna keep running down the playbooks simply because then we're gonna have a bunch of like time where everyone just sits and figures out their stuff.
Can I? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I actually ask a question before we get into playbooks? That I realize that maybe I don't know if you want to get into or not, but we haven't talked about it, and I've been sort of like holding off on character concept until we nail it down a little bit. So you talked about sitting in Boston. That's great.
Yes.
I can do that. I know that city. I don't need. And I could. If it was a city I didn't know, I'd figure it out. But City Hub.
Ah, yes, that's a great point. Yes,
Um,
let's talk City Hub a little bit. Eh.
'Cause I realize there's like I have to create a harbor and a haven, and I have thoughts about what places I would like those to be, but
Right.
also like I don't want to pick a place that's like doesn't make any sense for the sort of
Yes, that's a great point. Let's so the City Hub is a thing that I don't have the is going to kind of cover the it's going to be the center of this story, or at least the start of this story. And there's 4 sort of choices that the book gives us, and I'm gonna stick with those for now because I'm gonna that's so our options are the art district. And so in the art district, colors swirl, pop, and blister. Wild thrives here, tiptoeing the line between artistic passion and corporate assimilation. The city hall, the red tape of bureaucracy binds all. Mortalis holds sway in City Hall by knowing where the tape is weakest and who needs to be cut to walk past it. Downtown. Downtown only reveals its true nature at sunset, the moment at which business as usual comes to a halt and the affairs of night can be truly addressed. And the university. The university is a hotbed of political discourse, supernatural research, and strange magical phenomena. Power holds an iron grip over this section of the city, controlling the institutions that determine the city's very future. But plenty goes on in the shadows they can't reach. So this is going to sort of give us I guess, a little bit of a focus on a particular circle. All of the circles will be present in kind of all the city hubs. It's not like we're going to, and we will be able to include kind of whatever set of characters we need, characters and places that we need. And of course, you can travel. You can go outside the city hub, the city hub as sort of is relevant. But these are going to kind of, I guess, focus our play a little bit. So let's just start. Maybe Kay, starting with you. Do you have any opinions on which of those city hubs you prefer?
Honestly, I'm feeling pretty open to all of them. I think they all sound kind of great. I'm happy to lean into whatever works better for everyone else's character.
Okay. Well, I might come back to you for a more definitive decision later. Jesse, any thoughts?
Yeah, not really. I'm good with any of them. I guess like just because the one I've used before in 2E is the university, I kind of would be curious to see the other ones.
Okay.
I guess, and then yeah, that's the only one of the pre-made ones I've used. So yeah, I think any of the if someone else is like definitely university, I'm down with it. But like all else being equal, I think I'd prefer to try one of the other ones.
All right, Brandon.
I love the university. The mention of dark magical things going on in the corners and stuff like that. It also, also to the degree you want to bring in the Cthulhu mythos, right? That's where they'd be working on it. I know it's not Miskatonic University, but still, there's that was always been my favorite part of H.P. Lovecraft's world is Miskatonic University because it was just had so much potential to be messed up.
I'm also I am fine with the university if like Brandon's like university and everyone else is like, yeah, that's cool. I'm fine with it. I want to be clear about that. It was like mild curiosity that made me say otherwise.
Elle, do you have any preferences?
I think I'm less interested in City Hall. I'm totally fine with any of the others. I think, given that you've pointed out that we don't have much wild going on among the PCs, it might be cool to do, the Arts District. That is kind of controlled by wild.
There are wild NPCs out and about to be
I think the university certainly has wild.
Oh yeah, I know Wild is going to be in the game.
No.
regardless,
I'm just saying.
but-
Last time I went to a college campus,
Yes.
it was the most obvious one there.
Given all that discussion, Kay, any leanings?
So we've got, just to clarify, we have a lack of interest in City Hall, a vote for arts, a vote for university, but also a little university apprehension. What was the other one?
The last one is the downtown.
Downtown
It's like shopping district, kind of is the
shopping district.
Yeah, shopping. Yeah, or like
IK
nightlife.
have a beloved love of Boston's fashion sort of business and fashion district. So I'm going to make this harder on everyone and put a vote in on the downtown district.
Perfect. All right. Well, we have, I guess, a lot of votes in a lot of directions.
Well, we've got a 3-way split and one person who hasn't voted yet. Jesse, you want to be our tiebreaker?
That's true.
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that I've kind of decided to make my harbor North Station / the Boston Garden. So like that's closest to downtown of all of those places, I guess. If downtown is like Downtown Crossing, South Station there. I don't know exactly where I don't know what we're calling downtown here. If mapping it onto the geography, and also it doesn't matter. It's more thematic than geographic.
Yeah.
But so I guess if you're forcing me to take a vote, I'm voting for downtown. But like, I'm really happy with any of them. I don't. And one of the nice things about the hub is that like it's worth remembering that like all of these things can be elements in the game. We can go to the university, we can go to the art district, right? It's just like, who are we picking our starting relationship with? And
Yep.
or whatever.
All right. Are there any strong objections to the downtown? I guess from Brandon or Elle.
Nope, works for me.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's just go with that then. Mostly so that we've made a decision. Okay, so with that, going back, and I know, so you'll need to choose moves. You all get some level of choice. Some of you have more to choose from, and more to choose than others. That's all labeled in the like playbook section. You also each have sort of special things, 2 special things. I was all set with the character sheets being like just 2 special things, and then the wizard had like 3 very meaty ones, and I was like, well, blarg. But yes, so everyone has 2. And they have some level of choices in them. And then the things like corruption moves and let it out and all of that other stuff down at the bottom should just be auto-filled in your character sheet at this point. Well, except for the actual moves that the corruption moves you've taken, or corruption advancements you've taken. So yeah, the big things are you got to pick stats, circles, moves, and whatever choices your specials have. With that, I'm gonna say I'm just gonna stop talking for a bit and let you all fill things out, and we'll come back in a bit and do some character introductions.
Hey, Kale. For NPCs, how straightforward to like playbooks do we have to be?
Can you clarify what you mean there?
So I'm thinking about my benefactor.
Yeah.
And the idea is, and I think it would be fun to have a hybridization vampire wizard kind of character for the
Uh-huh.
benefactor. Is that something that we're okay with messing with?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember what the benefactor is.
The benefactor is sort of so that you have a benefactor, a powerful NPC whose fate is
Right.
intertwined with your own. You come into their service as a result of your prophetic visions. They now demand more and more of your powers. Name their circle
Yeah,
and
so
choose prophecy lines.
I don't think they have to. I think a combination mixed vampire wizard is totally fine. They're the only people, as far as I'm concerned, that are strictly going to be in a playbook are you 4 characters.
Cool.
Everyone
Okay.
else is whatever works well for the fiction. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, me casually looking at the people that Brandon are sworn to, and how can I make a benefactor that directly opposes all of this?
I had looked at the
No,
like.
I'm happy to give you some information about my character in order that you can come up with the most complicated possible thing. So
Brandon and I do torture each other in games.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I would very much like if one of the other characters has a couch that I can crash on. But we'll leave that for a moment.
I may have access to a luxury box.
No.
You just have to get out of it during game time.
No, it's just that the sworn playbook gives a nice apartment and a car and things like that, and Dancy uses none of it. She's never set foot in the goddamn department nice apartment that they set aside for. Dancy is someone who basically is working for power because she's cursed. That's how she describes it anyway. And if you asked her what her job was, she would say, "I kill wizards that get out of line." And that's not entirely accurate. She does a whole bunch of other things too. But she does do that. So she is mostly involved with keeping, making sure that rogue power is very susceptible to rogue activity, in my opinion. And someone to keep wizards from engaging in unauthorized stuff. Her bosses are euthanatos, who are people who have very, very strong ideas as to what is alive and what is dead and how everything should stay on its side. And that anything that crosses that, anything that encourages crossing that boundary is a bad thing. It should be stamped out hard. They have mixed feelings about vampires, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say I look forward to seeing how where Jesse's vamp falls on that.
Yeah, where vampires fall is an interesting question, and one that has a lot of argument. But what they are particularly against is things like resurrectionists. Things that would bind spirits back into living bodies and things like that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk. I want to talk a little bit about like vampire lore. We don't have to decide everything, but I think it'd be helpful to.
No, it's not.
Frame some stuff, but definitely never died. Always been alive. Maybe I missed a couple breaths for like a few seconds, but my heart stopped pumping. But never died. That happens to people in the hospital on a daily basis.
So yeah, so the euthanatos are all minor death deities. Not to put too fine a point on it. From a striking array of different cultures, which is just an excuse for the games master to be able to invent ones that they like, or use whatever ones that they think are cool. They're almost like Loa, if Loa weren't restricted to, Haitian or African deities.
Where did you go?
It's down at the bottom, Jesse.
Okay, thank you.
You can also just
Good.
grab the, like, if you have a URL for it, you can paste it in below the image and it'll like
yeah, I
slot
find that
it.
this works better for me most of the time.
Yeah, that's also fine.
Kale, do you have any sort of NPCs or names or anything about like the society here in Boston preset already, or lore, or were you doing it all together?
No,
That's okay.
I am not I don't I did not do any prep of
That's okay.
NPCs, partly
okay.
because I don't know what pub we were using. I don't know what your characters were like.
That's
So
fine.
yeah, I don't have anything.
Oh, good. I just wanted, if you had stuff, I would rather pull from it than create new things that might contradict or things like that.
No, I will happily take all the things that you guys give me in this session and then like try and reuse and reconnect all of those as we go. Also, don't mind me. I'm just reformatting moves on the fly that didn't fit right in their boxes. Because
Sorry, I'm looking up names with a certain level of historical significance in Boston and found the Coffin family, and I was like, that's a little too on the nose.
I knew some coffins who were from Boston.
Ah.
Yeah, me too.
Were they originally of the Newbury Nantucket coffins?
I don't know if they were from Nantucket. I never asked them.
Yeah.
I went to school with them in Western Massachusetts.
Oh, that's a good one. I need a character name, don't I? That's the worst.
Oh, I love naming characters. I'll name your character.
No, it's fine. I just have to decide. Whether I want to make him whether I want to lean into this sort of inspiration I chose or soften it with something else.
Lean in.
Yeah, it's always good to start out, and then you can complicate the character and play.
So I'm going to pick the brain of y'all who are a little more Urban Shadows savvy than I. Under the benefactor, there's two strengths that feel extremely kind of similar to me, which is they are a status 3 member of their circle and they wield significant supernatural power. Like if someone's a status 3 member, shouldn't they just wield significant power? Like,
I mean, you can be a status 3 member of Mortalis, and they wield, like, they control a faction, so they wield significant power, but they do not personally have significant, like, supernatural power. You know, like that could be the mayor or whatever, or the head of the supernatural combating division of the cops, or you know.
Yeah, Kale, as the MC, do you have any thoughts on the distinction as well?
I'm sorry, I missed your.
That's
where were
okay.
you reading from?
Okay, so I posted it into my benefactor section.
Yes.
And if you look at the strengths, there's one that is they are a status 3 member of their circle, and the other is they wield significant supernatural power.
Yeah. Yeah. So right. So I think the way that Jesse put it is apt. I would read the significant supernatural power is about their personal abilities. Like they, they are a powerful wizard. They are a strong vampire. So, like things that if they get personally involved in something, that's going to be significant. They may not be status 3, so they may not have a faction to back them up. On the other hand, a status 3 individual member of their circle, they have a faction. That's like status 3 and has a faction go hand in hand, at least in 2e. And so,
And
whether or not they have significant personal power, they have political power, right? They don't have
Okay.
supernatural power, they have political power.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm looking at the 3 that I have left on there, and I'm just trying to figure out which ones match best or would work well.
Mm-hmm.
But all 3 are appealing.
What are the 2 columns for rating?
Oh, yeah. So the column on the left is your stats rating,
Okay.
and the column on the right is your circle rating.
Oh,
And then
circle.
the column on the far right is your circle status. I apologize that the character sheet is maybe not entirely clear about
Okay.
that.
This is honestly the best I've seen it laid out. I find the distinction between rating and I know what it means, but like the distinction between rating and status is super confusing. The names they gave them,
Yeah, they're not.
It's like
They are not super clear.
It's one of the least intuitive parts of this game, which I think is generally a pretty intuitive game. But it's just like, my brain is having a hard time with this. Like what your circle rating represents as opposed to your status. It's just all very,
Yeah. I don't know if this is an entirely accurate summary, but it feels like the status is about what the circle thinks about you, and the rating is sort of what you know. It's like status is from the circle looking at you, and rating is from you looking at the circle in whatever
kind of like. But anyway, we don't have to get into this. It's
Yeah.
something like that. I agree, but exactly what like that.
Sorry, circle. Okay.
All right. We are at 9:30. Well, half past the hour. Since you're probably not all in exactly my time zone. And I think people are mostly done with character creation, so maybe we should take the break and then we can do character introductions. Words. There we go. When we get back.
Just a quick question. Where do you want us to put the information for intro questions?
That's a great thing that I should have put in there.
Sorry.
I don't have a place. Let me make one real quick.
Okay.
I think, yeah, no. I think what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna put a like notes type column like thing down at the bottom. I'll do that while we're on break. How's that sound? All right. So I will see you all. Let's do like a 10-minute break.
Okay.
15-minute break. Anyone have any? I don't.
10.
Yeah.
I'm good. 10's fine. Yeah.
10 sounds good. Okay, so we'll see you all at 41, roughly.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. I'm sorry, Kay. I only just saw your message in chat. All right. Excellent. So we're all back. I think I'm pretty sure I saw Brandon's video come on and off a couple of times. So, let's go ahead and do some character introductions. And I think I'm gonna go in character keeper order here. So, Elle, do you mind starting?
Sure. For these, do you want us to answer the intro questions or just give an overview of what we chose, like mechanically?
Let's do an overview and the intro questions.
Okay, cool. Well, my character is Dara Pickman, pronouns she, her. She's the aware, so she's just in most respects, a regular person who is just beginning to discover the supernatural and get more entangled in the world. The moves. Sorry, her look is kind of artsy, business casual. I think she's an assistant museum curator. I haven't decided at what museum, but it doesn't necessarily matter.
How married to that are you, Elle? I don't want to X-card it if you're excited about it because I don't have strong feelings about it, but that's what I do for a living, and I suspect I'll get annoying. Like I'm totally like it's. I also know it's like a TV job, in that sense.
Yeah.
So if this is like really important to your character concept, that's why I didn't just like say X card and move on. I'm okay with it, but also I know how the sausage is made, and I just feel like it might not.
Yeah, I get that. I was working in publishing for a long time, and it's never portrayed the way it actually is. But
or I guess the question is how museum-y do you want to get? If you want to, in terms of is it a flag that you want to dig into museums?
Not necessarily, and I imagine if the other characters aren't immersed in museum world, that the specifics of her job won't matter a ton. Although I did choose one of her kind of mortal ties to be her boss, so it would come up in that respect.
Yeah, I think I'm good with it. I guess the thing I want to flag is I like us not to spend too much time talking about how museums run. That's I guess the thing I want to sort of put up on the board is maybe let's not do that.
Sure. Give me a second. I might just switch up my character real quick.
I know that something like that happened, but it's
no apology necessary. I just think I need a moment then. So come back to me, Kale, please.
Sure. Kay, why don't you go ahead then?
Yeah, I can go. So my character is Russell Beaufort Van Cortlandt Jr. None of you would know that name. He's red. His look is he's white, but casual clothing, like soft t-shirts, sweatshirts, cardigan kind of vibes, very down to earth. But if you look a little closer, they're made of very expensive materials, and the brands are just stupid. It's you could get something so similar from The Gap. Why is this Hermes? But it is. There's a couple pictures there. His stats are, 0 blood, -1 heart, 2 spirit, 1 mind. He's got
I actually had a quick question about the stats because is there something I've missed? That the starting stat line is 0, -1, 1, 1. Wait, maybe you fixed it, or maybe it was something different.
I get a plus. You can add a +1 to your stats.
Yeah. So you're good. There was something I thought I was had seen something that was what looked wrong. You're all fine. Sorry about that.
No problem. He's got a singular status in the powers. For his moves, I've chosen Skim the Surface, which allows him to sort of do a certain level of reading someone's kind of mind, things like that, or just basically kind of their surface thoughts with touch. And the other is Soothsayer, which allows him to use his prophetic tools to read someone's future directly. As an oracle, one of the important things he has is a benefactor. His specific benefactor is Percival Dree Crowenshield, who is a power knight wizard vampire. For prophecy, I have chosen they alone can guide you to the mystical answers you seek. For flaws, I have chosen they are terrifyingly violent and cruel, and they are also madly in love with you. In terms of strengths, I'm still debating between the 3 provided. If anyone has opinions or suggestions on what they think might work better, I'm open to that. But that is whether they are a status 3 member of their circle, whether they wield significant supernatural power, and they're meaning they're disciplined and loyal. Theoretically, I would like all 3. Life isn't giving me that option. So
I mean,
maybe
it
I will make
sounds
some-
like by definition they wield significant supernatural power.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
they're an undead
Okay.
lizard.
Can I ask a question about Power Knight? Just because I'm like, I think like even Wizard Vampire makes sense to me, but
Yes.
like my understanding is that like circles are communities and you can't be part of
Yeah.
both of them in that sense
Okay.
as the game works.
Yep.
Okay,
I was going to
cool.
raise that same.
This question.
That is
The-
valid.
The difference, I think, would be about what it is that Percival is doing. It's sort of as we mentioned the palette. Sort of what is their conception of power, right? The power as a circle is focused more on the like political power and power to influence the future of the city, whereas Knight is more focused on sort of the immediate power and kind of dealings in yeah, I mean immediate power, more in the
Yeah. I
underworld
think power
type.
then just is probably the better one to go with for that.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure how to phrase that because I was sort of picking something that's part of 2 different factions, like in its base prompt. But I think power is what makes sense. He feels very much like a long game player to make.
Cool.
So yeah, so power, wizard, vampire, they alone.
Also that way he falls squarely into my field of suspicion.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the other reason for that. So
He's,
sort of
he's exactly the kind of person that makes me
Yeah.
makes me
I wonder how that happened. I start with the foretelling moves, which is essentially just sort of any fashion turn or to start the game. I get to roll and find out some shenanigans based on whatever Kale is feeling. For his questions, how old were you when your visions began? So Red was 16 when he had his first visions. It was not a pleasant experience, nor was it a warmly welcomed one. Well, he comes from a long line of oracles. The lineage was passed through the maternal lines, and there's never been a male oracle before. The family didn't think it was a fortuitous or good sign, and in their sort of social circles, it was kind of a bit of an aghast thing. I will say Red is very new to the city. He long have been in the city. I think he's been in the city for about 13 months. He grew up somewhere in the ambiguous Louisiana South. And 13 months ago, he kind of arrived in Boston because he couldn't be there anymore. Then how did you originally convince your benefactor to trust you in your visions? I'm still kind of fussing that out. Happy to take recommendations or thoughts. Who seeks to sway you from your service? There is a pack of werewolves in Boston led by Ariel Volkov. Red met her before his benefactor originally. In fact, she's probably the first person he really met and spoke to in Boston when he was brand spanking new. And she believes he was meant to be with her pack and would be a great boon to them. She feels as if he was swept up and stolen from being rightfully hers, and that situation must be fixed. Red is trying to just stay friends. It's complicated. What signs hint your prophecy grows near? My visions have grown more and more frequent and strong in the last few months at a frequency that is just so continually amped up from what he has experienced from the last handful of years.
So some questions.
Mhm.
You mentioned the family didn't believe that a male oracle was a fortuitous sign. Now, is that like Red's immediate family? Is that the clan, the lineage?
I think it's like both. I think in the societal cultural circles that he was born and raised in, kind of just in the sort of power statuses of oracles within this area of this southern region and nebulous southern Louisiana state. It's just not a thing. The women are oracles and they're powerful from that, and the men do this, and this is how we track that line. and it's just not something you hear of or that was proper or expected. And the fact that it happened was considered like, you know, back in the day, how people were like, oh, twins, fuck, that's a bad sign. Kind of like that kind of thing. Like, this isn't, I hate to use the word natural because I don't like that, and that sounds a lot like hate, like gross hate speech. But you know, that's not the way things are supposed to be, and so it wasn't
Sure.
really something that they were excited about, nor anyone expected.
And is I guess this is more of a question to you than about Red, but are you interested in having the family in the story, or is that a distant thing that sort of
If you want to bring them in, go for it. Feel
Okay.
free to make it messy, have them come in. I'm down for that. It was something that I was just like, and here's some background information about why he fled to the city, and give some sort of background for why he might be open to letting himself be stuck with not great people. But if you want to have them show up for some reason, like, happy, like, go for it. You know,
um
and then his gear is basically the gear list for him is basically like anything he wants from his powerful benefactor, and also a couple of prophetic tools. But yeah, he's I think he's pretty young. I think he's like late teens, early 20s. Like I said, he's only been in the city for like a little over a year, like barely. Um, and is kind of a bit of like a, you know, he has the way the benefactor and the oracle kind of work. He's kind of a bit of like a kept man. You know, he's not used to bustling city life, and he's trying to get used to it and figure out what is life like now that he has left his more traditional and familial Southern ways in a very liberal, great kind of studious and vibrant city. I've also put both Percival and Ariel into the. I should maybe change her name. Those are very similar. Didn't realize how they sounded at the end. In the NPCs tabs with some pictures.
Do they do Percival and Ariel know each other? Like,
I think they have to, right? Because I doubt, like, I don't think it's in a good way, you know? Because clearly I think Ariel probably looks at Percival and is like, you stole my oracle. And Percival's kind of like, yeah, not your oracle. That was mine, and it was always going to be mine. And he's like, please stop arguing.
okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was a, you know, Red was keeping them sort of somehow secret from each
No.
other, or okay.
Yeah, no.
Not all right. Cool. I don't. All right. Brandon, why don't we jump to you then?
Okay. My character's name is Dancy Flammarion, and yes, those are unusual names. People who are attentive to things will notice that she still talks with when she's not paying attention, she talks with a Georgia backwoods accent, which I am not going to try to reproduce. But she's clearly not from around here. She is also, if you look closely enough and you see past the makeup, she is an albino. She wears ratty clothes, and when she's targed off, she has a vocabulary that could strip paint. She is a sworn, and her masters are, as I mentioned, a group of deities that concern themselves with death, called Euthanatos, who are like, Loa, if Loa was not restricted to Western or Haitian deities. They're not a very uniform group, but they're all more or less on the same page, albeit the means that they like to use are very different. from one another. Her starting moves are one that boosts mind and another one called Protect and Serve, which means that she's very good at things out and reading people. She swore her oaths to Euthanatos because she felt like she didn't have a choice. Euthanatos doesn't get a lot of recruits from among the gets some recruits from among the living that believe in their cause, and they refuse to recruit from among the dead. But they get their most powerful operatives from those people who are dying and whom they can make a bargain not to pass the veil in exchange for swearing oaths, and that's how they got Dancy. Dancy's life, she's felt, has always been cursed, and why should her death be any less so? She hasn't been in the city for very long. I put 6 months question mark. That can be fiddled to fit with anybody else's history. She was trained in the ways of her order by a seraph. She will tell you. Whether that's true or not is an interesting question. She certainly describes something or someone that looks a lot like a biblical seraph. But of course, nobody has ever seen those, right? The Euthanatos people tend to be very kind of stylish. You know, they're all. Some of them dress old-fashioned, but a lot of them, you know, dress very, you know, haute couture or in nice suits and things like that, and they affect, you know, posh accents of whatever country they are purporting to be from. Dancy doesn't have any of that style, and she doesn't care to acquire any either. Not that she's crass or rude, really. It's just where she came from is so stamped on her that she cannot really even affect, you know, being higher class. Her background would otherwise indicate. Whose appearance are you investigating? It says, I made up a name, Jeremiah Tlaylock, who is a necromancer, thought to have been kidnapped. Necromancy is a tricky subject for the Euthanatos. It's a perfectly okay thing to study death. It is not okay to play around with it. They haven't told exactly Dancy what they think Tlaylock was involved in, but his disappearance has been cause enough for concern, evidently, for them to set her on his trail. She has all this starting gear, which she has never visited or taken out of the safety deposit box that it still resides in. She has exactly one weapon, which is that she has her legendary weapon, which looks for all the world like a kitchen knife. It's a dagger forged from demonic steel, and the kitchen knife, and it looks like a kitchen knife. It is in fact very hard to tell that it's not a kitchen knife because it is, you know, because it's demonic. It's made to fool you. She wears it tucked into her belt in the back, which again is just emblematic of the kind of life she's had to lead. She crashes on someone's couch in all likelihood, or sleeps on the street when the weather is good.
So I'm curious. So the knife, did that come from Euthanatos?
That's a good question. It certainly can have. Or maybe she already had it. Whichever you would like. Classically, the legendary weapon does come from the masters, but given her unusual background before, as essentially a monster hunter, she could well have
Mhm.
brought it with her.
I mean, hey, it's your character.
I think she's had it since time out of mind.
Okay.
She refuses to say where she found it. It is a legendary weapon, though, and which means it's hard to take away from her.
Yep. So you mentioned that she's sort of a monster hunter. That was true before she was recruited by Euthanatos?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
She was, yeah, the monsters got the best of her. And after a rather miserable and itinerant life, she was dying probably from the poison of something. And Euthanatos went, "We will make you a deal. If you will work for us, we will give you a better existence than this miserable trek from one misbegotten place to another looking for things to kill." It seemed like she was pretty sure that if she died, she was going to hell. And so that seemed like a decent deal. She still believes in all that stuff, notwithstanding the mountain of evidence to the contrary that she has personally experienced.
And given your sort of itinerant lifestyle, sort of even in the city, how does Euthanatos get in touch with her?
That's a good question. Is it a message drop, or do they make her have a cell phone? Euthanatos has places that she knows about where she can go and report in.
Mm-hmm.
And she's expected to do that.
Okay.
I think there have been times that they've tried to foist a piece of electronics off on her, and that's taken for a short period of time, and then she throws it in the gutter as soon as she thinks she can get away with it. She doesn't. She is sworn to them, and she doesn't do anything really to piss them off. But and she doesn't like being pushed around too much.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that she's charged with is protecting and policing Euthanatos' members. Do they tend to kind of dabble around the edge of this necromancy taboo, or is there some other type of policing that she's needing to do?
Oh well, I mean, she's most of the policing she does is within the power faction. And Euthanatos has a strong interest in saying that people in power do not fiddle with the life and death question.
Got it. So it's more about
so people like Percival, who is unnaturally, who is prolonging life by unnatural means, is probably on their shit list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they may not be able to do anything about him at the moment, but they sincerely desire that that wizards, stick to areas that are, in their opinion, less morally fraught. And where they can exert factional power, they're going to do things to stop people from engaging in that kind of thing, of bringing people back from the dead, of prolonging life, past, prolonging life through seriously unnatural means um, of creating zombies and things like that.
Got it.
So they're on the lookout for people doing research like that and for magical artifacts and such which are involved in that, and stopping the former and getting a hold of the latter so that they can be properly destroyed or what have you.
And are the deities that are sort of the head of Euthanatos, are they walking the city? Are they appearing in visions? Like what's the
I think they're embodied. They're they're like the deities in American Gods.
Mhm.
They've got jobs. They they have an art gallery or run a rare bookstore or
Yep.
something.
Cool.
There might be a discorporate one or two.
Sure.
That's.
But they're here. They're not like it's not messages from beyond or some.
No, they're very much here. No, Dancy gets her directions, by mundane means.
Okay. Excellent. Jesse, do you want to introduce us to Carrie?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am playing Carol. Brian goes by Carrie. He, him. From the picture there, right? That's I chose Robert Mitchum face cast. I decided this character is kind of heavily influenced by the Friends of Eddie Coyle, which is a fantastic Boston set mob movie from the 70s. Strongly recommended if you haven't seen it. Anyway, so for those who haven't seen the movie, and also because it's only very loosely based on that story anyway, I think Carrie was a small time mobster, mixed up with the Irish mob. I think he grew up actually a little bit outside of Boston. I'm gonna say Quincy, and got kind of pulled in at a pretty young age. So, this would have been like in the late 50s, early 60s. Into I remembered my historical setting. Early 60s. Into sort of low level crime, petty thievery, that kind of stuff, with kickbacks to the Irish mob. I think he moved up a little bit, but never too high. Was a stick-up man with bank crews, got some gun running, stuff like that. But at some point, someone decided he was a rat. He wasn't, but he took the fall for somebody else, and they were gonna put out a hit on him, but he got out of that by being turned into a vampire. This would have been, I guess, early mid 70s when that happened. So he's around 40, let's say, when he becomes a vampire. I think the vampire, and I put him in the NPC section.
Sorry, Brandon, can you mute? We're getting a lot of feedback, I think, from your.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Anyway, well, maybe not this person, but he became a vampire. He was turned into a vampire. That sort of let him start with a clean slate. I'm not sure how we want to handle, like, is the Irish mob still around in whatever year this is now? How are they, what's that past relationship, etc. I'm happy to play to find out what happens there. But the circumstances he now finds himself in is he's still kind of a mid to low level or a mid level kind of criminal. He now mostly runs an illegal sports book with a side in running kind of violent crime of different types. Whether it's home break-ins or liquor store robberies or even higher end kind of jewelry store robberies, right? But he puts together crews. He's on crew. He sometimes is on them. If anything, the sports book is kind of the cover for the more violent side of the stuff he does. He's based out of the he has his gear and right. He has a secluded apartment, maybe still in Quincy or down near the water somewhere outside the city limits, but still close by. A comfortable car, a smartphone, and a Walther PPK gun. But his harbor, right? So the vampire has a safe place, a haven, secure from outside dangers within a larger harbor. So the harbor has advantages and disadvantages. So I put it, the harbor is the Boston Garden North Station complex. It's sort of a place where I have some resources, but there's also some disadvantages to it. So the advantages are it's populated with ordinary mortals, giving you easy access to unsuspecting prey. Tons of people move through that train station every day. And then anyone who's attending concerts, sporting events, and it's staffed by ghouls loyal to me, bringing me news of anything they hear or see. So, like, when stuff's going on around there, I think a lot of the staff, both the T staff and the event staff, are ghouls who work for me. And I'm not sure exactly what ghouls means, if it's like the classic kind of Renfield thing, if it's actually some kind of undead or something else. Don't have an answer for that right now. Can think about that. The disadvantages are I'm within the territory of a Stat 3 vampire lord. This is Gus Endicott, Augustus Bradford Endicott. It's an actual historical figure who was a Mass state legislator and sheriff of Norfolk County. From an old, both the Bradfords and the Endicotts are sort of old Boston Brahmin families. So he's status 3, which means he runs some kind of a vampire faction. A night faction, and we can, I'm happy to, I have different ideas about what that could be. I haven't worked it out yet. Happy to talk it through with you, or just come up with something if you want me to, or you can. I don't have strong feelings about it, but my harbor's in his territory, and he demands tribute and debts. Then also it's North Station, constantly busy day or night. Those who frequent it make strict security impossible. Like, I can't lock this place down. In terms of the harbor, people can get in and out basically whenever they want, right? Now I also have a haven, which is secure, located within the larger harbor, and I think this is my haven is like a small room down in the basement somewhere of the garden, which is like full of old Celtics Bruins memorabilia. There's an old bit of the garden parquet floor. There's chairs. Some of they have the old championship and retired number banners, right? So like that's not the same one that was hung up there 50 years ago or whatever for Dave Cowens. Like they get retired. They come down. They put up new fresh ones. So I think I've got some of that stuff in there. It was maybe originally a storage room for some of that stuff, but I took it over. And now it's my haven. I've got it's a reinforced boat hull with emergency rations and an escape vector. It probably has a tunnel out to the street, or maybe to the river. I kind of like right by the riverbank there. And then when somebody willingly enters my haven, I get to add them to my web, which is a thing that we can talk about when it comes up, which will be soon. If certain things happen, you're in my web, and then I get certain advantages when doing things. My moves are Eternal Hunger. This is right? I hunger for human flesh, blood, or emotions. It's blood. I suck blood. I'm a classic blood-sucking vampire. I want to talk a little bit. I think it's just to sort of think about like vampire lore and stuff. There's all of this stuff around vampires. I think a lot of it, like, I probably can't go out during the day. I think that makes a lot of sense. That will have to work with that. I can't, maybe I can do the like Spike on Buffy thing of like big hat, and sunglasses, and coat, and if I really must, but I certainly can't survive direct sunlight. I try to stay out in the daytime. I think I don't want any of the religious stuff to be true. I like crosses, holy water. I think I'm fine with all of that. I think that's superstition. I just don't think that's a thing. I'm kind of, I don't know about the invite only thing. I don't know if people have thoughts about that. Like, I think that could be a fun thing to play with, but I could also see it getting annoying. I took one of my moves is always welcome. So I can worm my way into a restricted location by manipulating an underling or guard. So that's part of like, I have tools to get around it. But like, it will be annoying if I can't walk into an unoccupied space without somebody inviting me. So I don't know. I'm willing to sort of like go in and say that's the restriction, but like, when not narratively useful, we can come up with workarounds.
An alternative, which is interesting, is it might simply be a serious inhibition, right? That, traditionally since time out of mind, it's like it's considered an extraordinary faux pas to go in someplace without being invited, which doesn't mean you can't do it, but it feels wrong. People will think badly of you for doing it.
Yeah, I don't think Carrie's too concerned with like social niceties in that sense. I think, but I like that. I mean, I think maybe it's just I've got to keep my cool, right? Maybe it's as simple as that, right? That like, what am I afraid of? Something bad will happen to me if I do this, but I can work through it. There's some kind of supernatural thing I have to keep my cool to avoid. I did like that idea of like that there's something. I think it's not. I think Carrie in particular is like not. He's a 70s. He's a 70s gangster vamp, not a.
Here's a possibility in terms of keeping your cool. Maybe it is profoundly uncomfortable for you to be in a place you're not invited into.
Yeah,
so you have to keep your cool to remain there for any length of time, and as time goes on, the pressure to leave becomes stronger and stronger.
I like that a lot. I think that's like a great thing for like it becomes a tool Kale can use to say like, hey, you've been in here a little while. You got to keep your cool now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I like that a lot. I think that's great. Let's do that. Cool. And so let me just look at my intro questions. I think I hit most of them. When did I come? How do you keep your cravings in check? I don't think I do. Mostly. I think I have access to an easy supply of food. I think I generally don't try to kill people when I feed on them, but I'm involved in a fair amount of violent crime. I have victims who are not that hard to access. I have a place where I can get them. I don't think I really try to keep my cravings in check that much. I think, how did I acquire my haven? That's a good question. How did I end up? I think it's like a weird thing where at some point, maybe like in the 90s or around the turn of the millennium, like right when they were building the new complex there, which happened when I was like when I was in middle school, I think, so like the late 90s. There was like a. I mean, I guess it's I think it's actually as simple as like Gus gave it to me, right? Like I I was doing this kind of work. I sometimes worked under contract for him, but not necessarily. I don't think I'm part of his faction in that way. But I'd done some freelance work for him, and he thought it would be beneficial for me to take over there, and I could then pay him tribute. Maybe I even took it from whoever had it before. That's great. It wasn't right. It's a point of transition because the old building is coming down, the new building is coming up. Right. Someone's got to like assert their authority. I don't think it was a vampire. I think it was. I want to. Something that connects to one of the other PCs somehow. I want to hear some of the. Maybe it's someone who's connected to K. You had said, right, you were having a hard time deciding between between your maybe it's someone who's someone who's affiliated with Percival Crown and Shield, whether it's a member of their faction if they're a status 3 member, if they're a status 3 circle member, or one of their disciplined and loyal minions. But they used to control this territory, and then I took it.
Or actually, I wonder whether the Ariel's pack might be better as
that's way better. I love that.
A werewolf pack feels like, I mean, holding territory is sort of their thing. So I don't know how long.
And I don't even care about it in like the wolf territory sense, but I care about it like as I need control of, well, I guess it's the same thing. But it's a little bit less like home and a little bit more like transactional for me.
Yeah, I think that's great. Also, I switched the name to Stella just because Percival and Ariel sounded a little too rhymey together upon reflection.
Cool.
So,
yeah, so I like that. So yeah, so Ariel. So it's Ariel.
Stella.
And then what am I invested in right now? Is what deal am I invested in right now? So I was thinking I think I want to hold off on that question a second. I think it has something to do with necromancy. Oh, you know what? Here's what it is. Let's make it. I want to. It's violent. It's something necromantic. I think I've taken the proceeds from a jewelry heist. And do we have a necromancer character yet?
We have the missing necromancer that Dancy was charged with finding, whose name
I'm in bed with them.
Jeremiah Tlaylock.
I've invested some money, right? I think this is like straightforwardly just a cash investment. I'm involved and I'm involved as a junior partner with whatever their current necromantic project is, and they've gone missing. Do I know where they've gone? I don't know. Maybe. Does that sound good to you, Brandon?
Brandon, you are muted if you're here.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. And yeah, I think those are all the things so far as we've got intro questions and basic stuff about Carrie.
Nice.
Things I haven't talked about things Carrie. I would just I think Carrie has a certain attachment to his human family. They're all kind of dead, but there's a nostalgia about it. That's the sports fan stuff. I think like he had a bunch of brothers and a father. They were all big Bruins fans. And then Bobby Orr is his hero in some ways. And I think there's like you could still he's sentimental about a lot of that kind of stuff, but also kind of in like a toxic masculinity kind of way. Like it's a way you could get to him, but also it's probably not the healthiest thing.
I have a question about your harbor is sort of in Boston Garden North Station. Is that also where you like run your sports book out of? And
Yeah, yes, I do. I think like my ghouls work there. I think I could do. I think probably I have like a face, a face, like a persona there as like some kind of like middle manager, accountant type.
Mhm.
Right. That's kind of like the people who don't know think like I work for the venue as like an accountant. I haven't there may be like an office with my name on it or a fake name that I go by, somewhere in there. But everyone who knows, which is a lot of people, it's not like a real secret, knows that like I'm a bookie. I actually operate out of the garden when it's not game day, for during games, and when it's not game day, you can find me, somewhere in North Station.
Got it.
Or give me a call. I have a cell phone. you know, like
Um, yeah, we'll have to. So we'll definitely have to talk more about Gus and his faction and how that all plays out. I feel like I should have more specific questions here, but I'm drawing a blank. We're at about half past again. I would say let's go ahead and take a break now, and then we'll come back. And Elle, you can introduce us to Dara.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
All right. Yeah. So let's go again at about 40 past. We'll come back then.
Sounds good.
Brandon, are you back?
Think not yet, but while I have you for a second, I forgot to mention when I was doing that, there's a section on the benefactor. It says, ask the MC what life your benefactor has provided for you after you make your choices. Their continued largesse depends on how well you serve their interests. I don't need an answer right now, but I figured I'd
Yes, I
give
saw
that
that.
to you.
I saw that, and I will think on it.
Yeah.
I guess also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Never mind.
I was just gonna say it looks like Brandon's about to come back online. I saw a spinning wheel. Jesse, did you have something before we jump back in?
It can wait. I'd rather hear from Elle.
Great. All right. Yeah, Elle. Let's go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's try this one more time. My character's name is Dara Pickman. Her pronouns are she, her. She's the aware. So a member of Mortalis. She is biracial. Her mom is black and her father was white. And she dresses like professionally, but in sort of, artsy, colorful sort of ways. Let's see. The moves I took for her are Charming Not Sincere, which is just a boost to her heart stat. This is my city, which makes it easier or less costly for her to escape a situation if it's happening during a meeting with a powerful or dangerous individual in a public space with people around. And one way or another, which is basically like a beefed up persuade an NPC that she can only use on members of her circle. Let's see. Where should I start? I guess I'll go to the intro questions, although I might not answer them in order. I guess to start off, Dara is the granddaughter or great-granddaughter, I refuse to do the math, of an early 20th century painter named Richard Upton Pickman, who's not like a household name, but a well-respected figure in the art world even today. And obviously this character is inspired by Pickman's Bottle, the Lovecraft story, but again, I'm not taking the story or anything from Lovecraft's mythos as canon necessarily. It's already a departure that he would have a granddaughter in the first place, so it's just like the starting point for the character. But anyway, Dara kind of grew up already estranged from the Pickman side of her family. I think her parents were divorced when she was quite young. Some huge rift happened or cropped up between her mother and father, and it was kind of like, we don't talk about that family in this house sort of thing. But she nonetheless inherited an interest in art and a talent for it, and grew up wanting to be an artist herself. I think how she discovered the supernatural is that when her father died, which was fairly recently, maybe like within the last year, we'll say, instead of receiving like details about the funeral or anything like that, someone, she doesn't know who, sent her one of her grandfather's paintings, one that's like not part of any public collections. The first thing that was odd about it was that she realized that she has painted almost identical images, like it was the spitting image of a painting that she had done herself without having seen the painting before. And it also came with an anonymous note on the back of a business card for someone at the Pickman Foundation. And it had a little handwritten note that said, "The Family Curse," on the back. She's not quite sure what that means. But that is why she's investigating the Pickman Foundation currently. As a player, I haven't quite decided what's going on with the foundation yet. Obviously, on their face, they're like kind of the stewards of Richard Upton Pickman's estate, artistically speaking. But I think they're definitely truly up to something else, something nefarious, but maybe we can decide that later, or it'll come out and play. I'm also happy for any of the kind of established NPCs to be involved with the Foundation somehow, if other people are interested in that. She has been in the city for just a couple of years, I think. I think she grew up in Massachusetts, just not in Boston. And what mortal aspiration has she given up? I think she's basically given up on making money from her own art. She isn't a Nepo baby, given that she wasn't in contact with her grandfather's side of the family and did not like benefit from any of their resources. But everyone kind of just assumes so, given that she works in the art world and because she has that connection. And I think the mortal commitment that keeps her from leaving her old life behind is that I think she really like cares about her job. She works at a sort of small but prestigious art gallery. And I think she needs the job for financial reasons. Like she can't realistically spend all of her time looking into this weird family mystery that she's stumbled upon, even if she wants to. But I think also like one of her NPC connections is her younger sibling, who I think lives with her and like usually has a job, but it's like kind of a coin toss whether Dara's going to come home and find her sister, you know, crying on the couch again because something went wrong at work and she lost her job. Yeah, I think the gallery is her main sort of grounding space in terms of like life outside of this like weird supernatural world that she has recently encountered. Yeah, the other NPCs I think are her boss, who calls her into work at inconvenient times. I'm imagining that's the gallery owner. I'm also sort of imagining a relationship where it's like the boss employee boundary has maybe not what it should be. Like the boss is kind of like, we're friends, and there's like, sure, but I probably wouldn't be here if you weren't paying me, kind of thing. And she has an overbearing ex who constantly worries about her. Haven't decided much about the ex yet. That could also be an NPC from someone else's backstory. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers that.
I'll throw this out there. It would not surprise me that Percival, with his connections and money and yada yada, was connected to a possibly cursed artifact lineage painter foundation. I'm happy.
Yeah, I was looking at him as a candidate for that for sure. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Gus is also a candidate. Can there be opposing factions on the foundation board? That could be fun.
That's super fun. Yeah, if Kale's down with that, then I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. We had yeah. I was considering like putting the Pikmin Foundation as a faction, but I am happy to have it as an organization that is just a like
caught between.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's combat ground between two different factions trying to take advantage of its supernatural history. Let's see. Well, I would love to know more about. We're definitely gonna have to find out more about your mortal connections. Not the least of which, names and faces, but those don't necessarily have to come out. We don't need those right now. The gallery, do we have, well, is there a relationship between the gallery and the Pikmin Foundation as well?
I wasn't thinking that there's a direct relationship there. Actually, no. Yeah, I think I would like them to start separate at very least.
Sure. That's fine.
Because that's like one of my anchors to,
got it.
Normal life, right?
Okay. And is the let's see. So it was about a year ago that you that your father died, and sort of you started digging into the Pikmin Foundation. Have you made much connection with sort of the supernatural outside of that investigation, or is that kind of the center that we'll be branching out from?
I think that investigation is like the catalyst. It's like the reason why she started looking more closely at things.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine at the start of the game that she has sort of made connections that don't necessarily relate to her research. I mean, at very least, like she knows the other PCs, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think probably that will come out when we do our connections, like how else she's been embroiled, but I'm not quite sure yet.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I think let's get into the deaths now. And just I think what I'd like to do is just kind of go around, probably starting with red, and do start with just one of your three debt questions, and then we'll take another loop around to sort of do the other two. So yeah, Red, why don't you go ahead? You've got where are your questions? On the sheet somewhere.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking it up. It's not on the Google Doc, so I went to go grab it. Oh, is it?
It's on. So in the playbooks tab on line 11, there's
okay.
questions.
I went to go grab those from there, but let me put them onto my character sheet specifically on characters. 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay. I think. Let's see. Someone helps you decipher your visions with unique insight. You owe them 2 debts. I think that's. Is it Dara or Dara?
Dara.
Dara. Okay, I think that's Dara.
I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah. I have a bit of an idea of how we met. Let me know how you feel about this, Al.
Mm-hmm.
I think within my first handful of, I actually changed it. He's been here almost a year, 11 months. But I think after the first several months where like he didn't necessarily leave the apartment or the penthouse or wherever he's living, Percival was like, you need acceptable hobbies and things to be able to talk about. Go look at some art galleries. And so I think he started kind of going to some art galleries and coming in and out and everything. And I think he ended up in Dara's art gallery. And they just like started talking and offhandedly, like one of the paintings in there reminded him of his visions or something. And he started talking about it with you, and somehow you had helped him. Like from there, I'll kind of let you maybe give some input about what she did that helped him kind of figure some stuff out.
I wonder if, and like feel free to say no. I wonder if the painting you saw like was one of Dara's.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have sometimes had like I wonder, is it too overlappy, matchy if like after we met we started having shared dreams sometimes? Like you can appear in my dreams now after this like weird kind of encounter we had.
What if we say it's only ever happened once?
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Yeah. I think it happened once, like right when we first met. We were like, whoa, that's weird. And it's never happened again. And that's sort of part of what forged the connection. Well, this happened, and that's interesting. And you're nice and funny, and you know art things that I theoretically am supposed to learn so I can appear not to be an idiot and an ignoramus at events that I'm taken to.
Yeah, and it's like maybe Dara's like not even that helpful like in terms of figuring out what your visions mean, but you mentioned that they've been becoming more like frequent and stronger and maybe like a little scarier. Maybe it's just like we have a connection that helps kind of ground you and take some of the anxiety out of this like ramping up that your powers seem to be having.
You are literally the only friend that I have in this city that I'm pretty sure doesn't want something from me.
Hey.
Cool.
Yet somehow I owe you 2 debts. That's weird.
Okay. Character sheet orders. So, Dancy, you want to pick one of your questions to answer?
I do. You secretly help someone get justice for a wrong done on them. They owe you a debt. I'd like to throw this out and see who thinks this is interesting.
I have a pitch. It sort of depends on what you mean by a wrong. But well, no, I don't. But you know, I think somebody let's I think let's make them I want what we don't have a lot of wild in this game yet, so let's make them like a young newly immigrated to out of the Fae world into Boston Fae. Try to welch out of a deal with their not even a deal, but like, you know, I'd hire them to do something and they didn't end up doing it, with their sort of mealy mouth technical promises. And that's not just. Right? That's not. It's a like holding someone like to the letter instead of the spirit of their promise is not just. They deceived me, and you helped me get back what I paid them. Does that work for you, or is that
sure.
too? Do you think that's a little too transactional for Dancy?
It's too transactional.
Cool.
Dancy desperately tries to do what she considers to be the moral thing, even as she recognizes that has been impossible for her during much of her existence.
Mm-hmm. Also, that was part of why I don't think this young Fae was doing the moral thing either, right? But
this is kind of your your score to settle.
Sure, that's fair, totally fair. I still think that happened. I want that NPC in the world, Kale. But if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'm keeping a list of to-dos, and one of them, as you talked, was figure out more wild NPCs to put in play, and so you've given me one, so perfect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else feel wronged?
That doesn't. Oh, go for it.
I was going to say Red feels like someone who might have been oblivious to a wrong. Yes. That Dancy could have helped with.
That's fair. I don't think he's someone who interprets things done to him. Yeah.
Red. Yeah, well, maybe it was a wrong that you were unaware of until I pointed it out.
I think so. I think literally it was definitely a wrong he was unaware of until you brought, and then he was like, shit, okay. Sorry, I shouldn't have used the language.
So what is no language is great. I like language. So let's see. So was the wrong that someone was smearing you, blackmailing you, or trying to get you killed?
Let's go with someone was trying to get me killed.
Okay. And I think they just about succeeded. They like cornered in an alley kind of succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
With a gun pointed at you, because of that, they conceived that you had done to harm them. And they were really surprised when a knife blade sprouted up from them from back to forwards.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, and I think he was very surprised. He was very grateful.
And I was going to turn and leave, and then you said something that made me not do that.
Yeah, I think maybe he was like, "Can I get you a cup of coffee or something?" Like, thank you.
I went chocolate milkshake.
And yeah, and I think he agreed. And then you didn't see him for a long time because I don't think he was allowed to leave without a bodyguard for a while.
And then I think you came back to your apartment one time and the television was on.
I don't know if you could have gotten into the place. I think, well, I guess it depends on certain decisions of Kale, but I would think an unwanted visitor from the enemy faction of my benefactor getting into my apartment without me knowing about it does not seem like something that would happen.
They just let me in.
I don't think they let you in. I don't think like in care. Like I don't think that makes sense.
Fair enough. Although it is a humorous fusion. I was just going to be on your couch eating popcorn, watching a movie.
No, I'm sure it is a humorous thing. I just don't think it makes sense in the fiction for the situation.
Do either of you have opinions on who it was that was trying to kill Red, or shall I just come up with something to introduce later when it's fun?
Come up with something.
All right.
Yeah, it was some minion of some nasty person.
Yep.
And who then decided that it was too much trouble to pursue that particular line.
Perfect.
So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Carrie.
And I helped, and it says, tell them why you helped. I helped because you needed my help.
Aww.
Because like maybe you never offered more explanation than that.
Yeah, no, that's
just like, how did you know to follow them on that particular night? And she kind of shrugs her shoulders a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he would never. He is not the type that would ever pressure you for an answer.
All right, Carrie.
Yeah. Someone make sure you get fed regularly without attracting too much attention. You owe them 2 debts. I want to talk about feeding for a second, because I think maybe the way I implied some things earlier that make this seem worse than it. I mean, it's bad. I don't want to say it's not bad, but it's not. It's not. It doesn't automatically kill people. Right. I need blood human blood to survive. I need to feed on people. I think living people. Like I don't know that like blood banks do it. But it's not automatically deadly or even necessarily automatically harmful. There are 3 for the mechanically. I can always choose that they don't suffer harm at all. And though it says they don't suffer 3 harm AP, I guess you could read that uncharitably as they maybe suffer less harm. But I think the way that is supposed to be read is that they don't suffer. Like, if I don't choose that, they will suffer 3 harm AP. But if I don't choose that, they don't suffer any harm. I think that's the way to read that. Anyways, so, and I think generally speaking, and this is, there's generally speaking, right? It's something that I think kind of happens quietly. Usually, let's talk. I don't. There's like two things happening here and I want to talk them out, because there's a consent piece. There's a piece where this can go sexual. I don't want it to. Right. I think specifically because the corruption trigger is feeding on someone unwilling.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a line there that we don't that even metaphorically I don't want to cross. I think, why punching someone I think I guess I'm having a hard time, because I hadn't really looked at the corruption trigger actually until just now.
Yeah.
Or and started thinking about that question, right? Right. It's certainly unwilling violence. But I very much do not want the it's very much unconsenting violence. I very much do not want the metaphor to even approach sexual violence or get close to that in any way. Right.
Yep.
So right. So I just want to make sure that, so the question is, how are we framing it in the fiction, right? To avoid, to when we hit that corruption trigger, to basically make it very clear that the violence of feeding, right, is a violence of feeding in like a very literal way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused.
I'm confused. I think part of the problem is that I'm having a hard time thinking about, because in so much fiction, right, vampire feeding is framed sexually.
Well, isn't it just a matter here of basically non-consensual feeding?
Right, but
irrelevant. That's irrelevant of sex. It's got nothing to do with sex necessarily.
If I'm
I mean,
hearing,
it's basically like the equivalent of robbing somebody versus
right,
asking for money.
Exactly, and I think that's how I want to kind of keep it. Right. I just want to be careful with how we're framing and describing it, because it's so easy for the tropes to shade in that direction. And so I just want to be careful about it, I guess, is the thing I'm saying.
I have a question, which is, I mean, certainly you run a book. You're likely to have folks owing you things. Is that a frequent avenue for Carrie to?
Yeah, I think so. I think feeding is 100% a thing I collect for debts.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess so this is, I guess this is, and maybe this is how we're setting up, right? Someone make sure you get fed regularly without attracting too much attention, right? Like maybe someone's helping me connect. And it doesn't have to just be within the sports book, right? Because I run all of these kinds of like low level kind of criminal enterprises, right? You're set, or I mean, look, the other direction to take this, right, as a pitch to someone who maybe doesn't want to be quite as unpleasant as someone who sends the, is you feel bad for me and for my victims, debtors, whatever, and so you send along people who are like more who are more likely to be like comfortable and transactional about it. I'll see. Even saying that though, like, points me in the direction of this metaphor that I don't like. And now I know why I don't usually play the Vamp. This is
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something to be an important thing to resolve. That
I agree.
sort of ancillary to the question of debt, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're not comfortable with the concept of feeding, then
No,
you
I
may
agree. I agree
modify that
100%.
or do something else.
Let's jump to another question, and I'm going to think about this a little bit more, and we'll come back to this.
I
one.
can answer. I can answer one. I have a good one for one of your questions. If you
Sure, go for it.
Someone relies on you for their fix. Ask them what you provide that keeps them sane.
Yeah, what do I provide that keeps you safe, Dancy?
Heroin.
I like it. Very straightforward. How does
No,
that keep you safe?
Well, it doesn't keep me safe. I have pain.
Oh, sane. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the text.
Doesn't
Yeah,
keep me sane. I have pain.
Yeah.
I have for just I've been I got poisoned by something nasty, and it has left me with chronic debilitating pain. And the only thing that takes it away is heroin. And this isn't so. And I feel ashamed of this at the same time that I have to have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I actually think this is something that I do it. I think this is something that Carrie does not feel great about doing. But I think that's part of. I think Carrie feels a little bit of guilt over the fact that like this is the thing he needs to do to help you, but also it's the thing he needs to do to help you, and you owe him, and he likes that too. So, that's a sort of internal conflict he has. So that means you are also in my web. So not everyone who owes me a debt always is in my web. Some of these people with the starting debts are in my web. Up with Dancy up with and what my web is, just so people know, is when people do certain things, ask me for a favor, seek advice, bargain for info, or threaten my interest, they enter my web and owe me a debt. You would not. Sometimes that can involve two debts. That's not what's happening here. Even if I don't offer them anything in return, people leave your web only when they no longer owe you a debt. When someone's in your web, I gain the following: I can take +1 to help you or hinder you. Lend you a hand to get in your way. Whenever I figure you out, I can ask what your true hunger is, and I can spend a debt when trying to persuade you to add +3 to the total. And at the start of a game or when time passes, like before the faction turn or whatever, I can learn a secret about you you'd rather keep buried and mark corruption to ask a follow-up question. This is also NPCs, right? So it's not necessarily something that's always being or even often being used on PCs, but it includes PCs in it. So Dancy is currently in my web.
All right, and coming back around, Dara. Sorry, I've already forgotten how you want it pronounced.
Dara.
Dara. Okay.
I'm looking at my debts. Let's start with this one because I think it might be the thorniest one. You're leveraging dirt you have on someone to get their help dismantling a supernatural scheme that targets innocent mortals. You owe them a debt.
I mean, I think Carrie is a good candidate for that. If
you care about innocent mortals.
No, but I care about dirt someone might have on me.
Dancy would work for that because she does actually care about innocent mortals.
Then why does Dara have to leverage dirt?
Maybe Dara just feels like she has to leverage dirt.
That's true.
That could be.
What's your last one?
I think currently I'm not thinking of Dara as someone who's super manipulative, or at least not like conscious of her manipulative power. So I think it's like unusual that she would feel that she needs to like pressure someone into helping her in a very like sharp and conscientious way. So yeah, if she stumbled on some dirt on Carrie, I think that could be interesting.
Sure. What do you think it is?
Oh gosh, I was just gonna ask you that question.
I mean, I can pick something if you want. I mean, I think the question is not so much what is the dirt as who you're leveraging it with. Right? Because like everyone who knows anything about me knows I do dirt. The question is, right, like what's the specific thing? And I wonder if it's like I want to think about some of these like these NPCs and factions we've sort of created here. Like I think I
mean, if there was someone that, if Gus feels like a person that has significant power over Carrie, and so if Carrie was doing something that Gus wouldn't have liked, and
yeah, I think that's
Sarah
absolutely
knows about
right.
it.
I think. Do we want to say Gus and Jeremiah Tlaylock are rivals somehow? Power and night make for good enemies.
Yeah, I can work with that.
Yeah. So maybe it's just that like you found out that I was investing in Jeremiah's scheme, and we're gonna rat me out to Gus, who would not like that.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm curious now what Dara's relationship is with Gus.
I mean, it's possible you just know he's someone who has leverage over me, unless you want it to be more. He's a customer at the gallery. He definitely seems like someone who, like me, in a completely non-supernatural way, right? Like just in the course of your mortal life, this is someone who occasionally needs to, who does special viewings and purchases, after closing hours because
he's a big collector. He's like a big fish. Client at the gallery. Yeah. I like that a lot.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Well, I owe you a debt, apparently. Yeah.
But you're not in my web because that's not how that works.
Well, a question. What is the scheme that Carrie is helping dismantle or help dismantle? I guess it is leveraging and dismantling, so it's active and in progress.
Yeah. Something targeting innocent mortals that I think Carrie could help me with.
Is it? I mean, I made a joke in the chat earlier about your sister getting a job for me, and I don't think that's it. But like, did some job she had for a little while, like uncover some kind of scheme, if we want to make it wild, some kind of demonic or face scheme, or some other kind of like, other extra dimensional power.
Yeah, what if it's like Lucy had a job as a bartender for a while, and people from this particular establishment, like, regular customers, employees, like, I was hearing through my sister that people were like going missing, and I was worried for her. And then like the more information I was fed, the more it was like, this sounds like something else is going on, and I don't know what. Could it be like a place that's near your harbor, which is like why I would think that you could help me out with this?
Yes, I love that.
I'll come up with a name for the bar. But
Great. I mean, there's the right across from the garden is the. I don't think it's there anymore, but the Fours was like the big sports bar there. That was the famous.
I was gonna say we have a legit real setting, so if you want, you can just Google like Boston bars and things like that.
I'm down for it to be like a big sports bar. We can say it still exists in our version of Boston.
Yeah, the Fours. I remember my dad taking me there when I was like a little kid. Before a basketball game.
Great.
Closed a few years ago, but yeah.
Nice. And Jesse, you'd floated the idea that was demonic, I think.
I did, or something. So it doesn't have to actually be demons, right? But like something
Sure.
otherworldly, extra dimensional. Could be something connected to whatever the sort of not Euthanatos itself, which has its own things, but like whatever sort of fictional pantheon they're connected to, maybe to sort of. I don't know how you feel about that, Brandon, but
Sure.
All right. Well, I will put it on my list of things to think about underlying story for, and if anyone has any ideas that they particularly like for it, shoot me a message and we'll chat. Okay. Red, you've got 2 more questions. Who do you think they apply well to?
Yes. So I think the way I would like to go for this is I think you had a dark vision about someone but gave them bad guidance. You owe them a debt. I think that's Dancy.
Sure, that absolutely could be. Although I had just an awful idea about the other debt question.
I like that one because I think it's an interesting thing because I don't think he dislikes Dancy or has any issue with Dancy, obviously, but Dancy, it's very clear that the people Dancy worked for and the people that the person that Red is under are completely oppositional to each other. So I think he felt pressured to sort of, by Percival to not do the right thing in the case of this vision. And I think that's interesting for their dynamic. So I'd like to go with that one.
Absolutely. Great.
So I think you got into some maybe really big danger during one of your missions because I was like, hey, this thing's gonna happen and you gotta, you're gonna have an option of A or B and you gotta take B and you should have taken A. But Red was like, oh, it's B.
You let me walk into a giant trap.
Yep. Which leaves I'm just gonna do the other one just because it's right there. Is that okay? Or
Yeah.
do you want to go around again?
No,
Okay.
let's do both the other 2 questions.
Someone interfered with your destiny. They owe you a debt. Tell them if you forgive it and they owe you another debt if you still hold a grudge for their actions. How'd you mess up my destiny, Carrie?
how I messed up your destiny. Well, I still don't fully understand exactly like what your sort of like prophecy
Neither do I.
destiny is.
It's ambiguous at best.
Right. Just that Percival or Stella alone can guide you to the mystical answers you seek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually am a little bit unclear. Is they Percival in this, or are you, or is the
I
you
believe-
Percival in this?
So the they, I believe, is personal. The they is Percival in this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess that tracks with the rest of the
Yeah, with
stealth
that
clause
section.
being they. Okay. What that? So I do. What answers are you seeking?
Yeah, like what's
I,
an
well, I
answer?
think that's why sort of seek is in quotation marks there, and I think it just Red doesn't know. I think I'm leaving that kind of ambiguous. I think what he's seeking is sort of just a kind of a bit of like a place to belong, or like where his magic fits, because it clearly didn't fit back home.
I think let's keep this really, really straightforward. Okay. I think then right. So you had a vision, right? Right.
Mhm.
That you need. Let's keep this almost like comical, maybe. Like you had a vision. You had to be in a certain place at a certain time. Um. To, and I got in the way. How did I get in the way? I think like we actually have to have met. I want I want there to be a relationship here. Um, did you meet Percival right when you came to Boston? I'm trying to remember.
I think there was like a month or two.
So I think
that
this is
he-
during.
yeah, a month.
I think this is like during the first couple months you're here before you get hooked up with Percival, and you're doing odd jobs for me. Not
Yeah.
like anything
Nothing
violent or
criminal.
criminal, but like maybe you're maybe I even just like got you a job as like we got along, we met somewhere, right? I got you a job selling popcorn at the Garden.
Yeah, no, literally.
Like literally, right?
Literally.
And like in the course of that job, like I prevented you from getting someplace you had a vision you needed to go.
Yeah. I think he's still a little cross with you about that.
All right.
I think it doesn't interfere with things.
I owe you 2
He's a little
debts.
cross.
Brandon, I saw your message about needing to go. Do you have time? Do you have minutes to do your debts? If not, we will do them next session. That's fine.
If we can do it, I mean, a lot of these are taking 5 and 10 minutes to do each.
Yeah. Would you rather just leave it? We can pick it up at the beginning of next session. I know we are at 11:30. I'm in fact happy to. We could just.
I'd rather just leave it.
Okay.
I just want to leave Kay. I just want to leave you with a little tidbit, which is that if you wanted, someone interfered with your destiny, they owed you a debt. If you viewed your destiny as that I should have been killed at that point, that would have been a perfect thing. It's like you interfered.
I think it's an interesting idea, but I don't know if he'd have wanted a debt from that.
Anyway, I just thought you'd get a boot out of that.
All right. So it is 11:30. Brandon has to go. I want to make sure I should probably go. Just try and get over whatever this is that my kids gave me. So we've got a few more deck questions for the start of next time, and in the meantime, I will try and pick up and get some more backstory going so that we can get into some actual scenes and gameplay next time as well.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right.
Good.
See you all next week.
Good night, folks.